Bum, 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 bum. Da, 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 do, do, da, 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 da. I don't know the lyrics to this.
What are you singing?
You know the song from Francis Ha where
Oh, modern love. I try to catch the boy. Dun, dun.
do,
I'm
do,
heading
do,
on
do,
my
do,
way.
do,
Dun, dun.
do, do, do.
I try
Bum, bum,
on my way to
bum,
church.
bum.
Dun. Yeah, the part where she's running through New York and it makes you want to move there, but really I don't. I wouldn't mind visiting there, but like to live there, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean I haven't been there either, but it's just it looks so dirty.
I mean, I'm more of an LA kind of queen, so I'd rather live there.
My impression of New York City was like San Francisco, but slightly bigger and dirtier.
San Francisco's pretty filthy, but they have decency. You know what I mean? Like they
Sure.
literally have a patrol called Poop Patrol to clean the streets.
I remember this one time where I was going to a class in the morning. One of those classes that happens in like downtown campus.
Yes, sir. I remember that.
Yeah, like taking a 7:30 muni, like packed muni to go to this morning class. And I remember this one time when a homeless person threw a fucking garbage can into Walgreen, like the show window of
Oh
Walgreen,
wow.
just fucking destroying it and booking it. It's like, okay, that's San Francisco.
Just homeless people throwing stuff at big corporations. That's it's like a Rage Against the Machine song, except like existing.
For anyone who has never been to San Francisco, like us talking about this makes it sound like a really terrible city.
You know, like we could talk about San Francisco and write movies about San Francisco the same way like people such as Noah Baumbach could write movies about New York.
And with that very awkward transition, this week we're going to talk about Noah Baumbach movies. Well, two of Noah Baumbach's movies, because as you guys know, the coronavirus is kicking ass worldwide, and there are no new movies coming out for a very long time. So for the next several weeks, possibly several months, we're going to see how long this fight is going to continue. We're gonna do sort of director highlights slash actor highlights and talk about some of our favorite movies. So before we get to our review, go subscribe and review us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can send us a letter to minorityopodcast@gmail.com. And with all that out of the way, let's talk some movies. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Francis Ha and the Meyerowitz stories, parenthesis, new and selected.
What an interesting title. I felt
I don't even know what that means.
I think it's because toward the end, like it's not like it's not a story. It's like a side story. So that's selected. Like, oh, I'm gonna select these and put them in here. Yeah, but we'll start with Noah's stories first. I haven't seen this movie in a while. I remember the first time I watched it. I remember it being bleak. Well, we should give like a general summary. It's just all Dustin Hoffman's like this really snobbish, condescending artist who provides a very toxic personality. And when he's trying to sell his own house, his kids from like 4 different marriages come back to him for not even advice, but they're visiting him like a family reunion in a sense.
He plays a sculptor whose career never really went anywhere. And he has, like you said, he had 4 different marriages. He got 2 kids who grew up to be Adam Sandler and Elizabeth Marvel. And then a couple years after that, Dustin Hoffman's character remarried another person, and they got a kid who grew up to be Ben Stiller. And all of them have daddy issues, and through series of events and the dad becoming ill, they try to, resolve their problems and get along as a family. and that kind of stuff.
This film reminded me of his Squid and Whale days of screenwriting. It's a little bit more toxic and sharp like it was in that one. Like there's a lot of like subtle insults toward the kids and the kids toward the dad, like saying like this is your problem, or like Adam Sandler is such a egotistical yet subtle performance in this film.
I think he's great in this. I love this performance over Uncut Gems, actually. Yeah, it feels more human. Like I love when he plays this like really flawed but lovable person. Like this character is very similar to the one he played in Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
He both characters have like serious anger management issue.
I think it's shown really well in the beginning when like he's trying to find parking and he just cannot keep his cool. Like he unbuckles his seatbelt mid driving in New York to take off his jacket, and he's just like, the heat's getting to me. I was like, dude, you're literally driving. But he's still a lovable person, like as we see through his daughter's interaction. But his daughter's hilarious though.
Oh yeah, his daughter is going to Bard College in New York.
And she's a filmmaker. I was like, oh, that's good. I was like, hey, she's a filmmaker. That's cool. But then she makes these avant-garde pornographic films.
One of the films that she makes is called The Pagina Man.
Vagina Man.
She plays a character who has both a penis and a vagina.
It's Vagina Man. Wants to have sex in college. And then she's just like, I want both. And then I'm like, what is this? Like...
It's a very experimental short student movie.
I've yet to see a student film as creative as that one, honestly.
What's interesting is when the daughter sends the link to her short films, and Adam Sandler and Dustin Hoffman and pretty much all the characters watch it in front of on a computer screen. And they don't really judge it. Like, they don't really say, "Oh, this is terrible." They just look at it and go, "Yeah, this is not that bad. She has talent." And I love that.
It's just the one thing I will say about this family. Like, even though as much as they argue with each other and be very toxic to each other, they are supportive of this one granddaughter's goals and her dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But then that's where because even the movie ends with the daughter on screen, like she's totally in focus the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we watch this movie, like it's kind of like a critique on how we view our parents or how we view our family as we get older.
When you said that it's his Noah Baumbach's writing in this movie is closer to the one in The Squid and a Whale, I agree and disagree, because I think The Squid and the Whale and pretty much every film up until Francis Ha has this really angry and cruel attitude toward humanity.
Yes.
But I think the Meyerowitz stories, he combines the same kind of anger that he had in his earlier movies, but also mixes it with this really heartfelt character study. Like, I think, and I'm just completely like guessing, but having Greta Gerwig in his life changed his movies completely. This one, I found it really heartfelt, even though a lot of these characters are self-obsessed assholes.
Yes.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting. I liked the characters, well, except for Dustin Hoffman's character, because he's a complete douchebag. But I felt for Adam Sandler's character being ignored by your own parent, own father, and just going to a different family to have another family. And that shit sticks with you as you grow older. It
was difficult to keep track of all the families, like who belonged to who in this movie. Because 4 different marriages, like it makes me appreciate my parents more, because I'm like, God damn, like they had one kid and that was it, and I was like, I don't know how I could deal with like 4 other half siblings like that. It's difficult.
It really spoke to me. I mean, I don't have the kind of dysfunctional family members that these people have, but the issues that they were going through were something that I can identify with, I can relate to. And yeah, I thought this was really insightful and really funny. There are so many funny moments in this.
I think there's a particular scene in the movie where like after Ben Stiller and Dustin Hoffman like have they don't have lunch, but they're ordering lunch, and then Dustin Hoffman is just constantly being very bitter toward the waiter,
Mhm.
and a couple they don't steal his jacket, but like they leave, and he's like, they took my jacket, and you just see Ben Stiller running, and then like this movie has very distinct cinematography. Like you know how like it a lot more long takes and like those pans where like it goes across to one subject and it comes back and you just see Dustin Hoffman's little cute run because he can't run that fast, and then Ben
Yeah.
Stiller's just running. Like it was just very informative. Like wow, that's the relationship between Ben and Dustin. Like
Mhm.
I think it did a really good job in explaining which character and how each character is toward their father. Like it's like Dustin Hoffman is how do I say this? It's like Dustin Hoffman is the catalyst, and everyone else is reacting to the catalyst, and that's the movie.
Mhm. Mm.
It's a very interesting movie. Like it's I don't know I don't relate to it as much because you know it's a lot for me to handle, but it's definitely something to keep
Mhm.
track of because one aspect of the movie is like the idea of disappointing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's a big factor. I'm like, okay, I can relate to that. He's just like, you should have you should have done piano. It's like, yeah, I should have. And I'm like, oh my God, is that gonna be me? Like, you know, like, yeah, this movie, Dustin Hoffman, he is such a funny person in this movie. Like, it's just the way he talks. It's like so bluntly about certain things. He'll be like, oh yeah, I mean, he kind of sold himself out. I mean, it's kind of condescending. I was like, Jesus Christ, you just say this in front of the people, like. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm leaving. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm leaving. I want to go home. I'm tired. I'm done with all this. I'm like, dude, stay. Like, stop.
He's
It's
so selfish.
so fucking selfish. But I still love that joke in the movie where it's like, oh, it's like $49 for a salmon. Does it blow you too? Like, I was like, what are you talking? It's like, what are you talking about? He's paying for the entire meal, dude.
What is Francis Ha about?
Frances Ha talks about the story of Frances. Her roommate decides to move out, and then Frances is trying to find somewhere to live and get her life back together after her roommate kind of and best friend kind of moves out of her life.
Yep, it's basically a movie about somebody getting her shit together.
And let me tell you, this movie is relatable on so many ways, and I think this movie signifies a brand new a brand new timeline for Noah Baumbach's career, like filmography. This movie has a very existential, kind of philosophical French New Wave kind of vibe to it. Like kind of like Sauterre, like Camus. Like she's trying to figure out what she means, what her purpose is in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your favorite part of the movie is when I think she recently got a check for like tax return, and then she's running through the street to David Bowie's Modern Love.
Yeah, I love that scene.
That scene is it's so charming because you see that type of scene again in Little Women with Saoirse Ronan's character running. So there's an energy Greta Gerwig brings to this movie, which it's such a depressing like setting for her to be in, but her optimism is what keeps this movie alive.
Yeah, that is the only liberating scene in the movie, because the rest of the movie is just her just struggling. Watching this movie was so painful to me. I'm exactly at a stage in my life where as this character is in this movie. Like, I'm about to be 27. She is 27. She is an art school graduate. I am a kind of an art school graduate. I'm a guy with a degree in film, and I don't really have a stable job. She doesn't have a stable job, and she's going through a tough time. I'm going through tough times. So this movie just felt too real to me. I couldn't take it. I got depressed after seeing this, even though it has that modern love sequence. It's just it's too much. It was too much for me.
Jesus, I never heard you like distress yourself like this. Like, Jesus fuck.
Yeah, just I can't take it. And with the coronavirus happening, I'm like, just this movie put extra layer to what I was going through. It's like, Jesus.
I kind of get you on that because like there's a lot of parts where like she's trying to justify her like where she wants to live. She's like, hey, so can I pay as much? And there's always a really awkward conversation. It's like, oh yeah, you owe 1,200. It's like, we agreed on 900, and it's like, oh, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
Like I just moved out right now from my job, and they're like, hey, we need you to pay 2,000 for the rest of the school year. And I was like, that's not part of the contract. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, you can't do that to me. That's illegal. Like, just this movie's so great.
I can't imagine somebody else playing Frances. Like, this movie works because it's played by Greta Gerwig, and I think her optimism and the charm are the things that keep this movie together.
Do you remember that one part of the movie where it's like Sophie shows what's her boyfriend's name?
Patch.
His name's Patch. And then Sophie starts like choking him, and they're like, and Greta's just like, and she's just like smiling. I always smile at that scene because I'm like, oh my God, I want to marry you, but you're already happy, so that's fine. Like, it's like, this movie, I don't know, it's small moments like that when like Greta's trying to pay for her meal using her tax returns. I'm like, okay, that's so relatable.
I mean, if we're talking about that scene, like at first her credit card or debit card doesn't go through, so she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna like withdraw some cash at ATM," and she runs like 10 blocks just to get some cash.
And then she fucking trips and starts bleeding. Like that's a common theme in that's a common theme in these Noah Baumbach movies. There's always someone bleeding, get like a cut from something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
And it's like she just falls. And Amjar was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" It's like, I fell. It's fine. And I was like, "Dude, you're bleeding."
The writing. I mean, Noah Baumbach is a really great screenwriter. I think his dialogue is always like really funny and sometimes sardonic, and yeah, it's so, again, the balance that he maintains, this tightrope between a comedy and drama really works.
I know people give Tarantino a lot of credit for like a good screenwriter, but Noah Baumbach is underrated. Like that, definitely.
I think Baumbach is a much better screenwriter.
I don't doubt that. I agree with you.
Tarantino is great, but dialogue feels very movie dialogue to me, whereas
like playwright almost.
Yeah, whereas what you hear in Noah Baumbach movies, like you can totally like see it happening. It's the kind of conversations that you have with your friends or your parents. It's very naturalistic.
Would you recommend this movie?
I mean, right now I can't say I do because
that's not a yes.
Right now I cannot say I recommend it because, again, the timing of it is just really bad. But in a few years, yeah, sure.
A few years.
Like if you were at the age of 25 through 28, I wouldn't recommend seeing this. It feels too real. You're gonna hate it. But either before 25 or after 28, I think you will love this movie. I think here's the thing. I couldn't detach myself from this character while seeing this movie, whereas with the Meyerowitz stories, I totally could. The reason for that is, what's happening in the Meyerowitz stories, like, that's not what's happening to me right now, but what Frances is going through, totally, just too relatable.
Okay, I get your argument on that. I don't know. I feel more attached to Frances, which makes me feel even more enlightened because I'm like, there's a character's... People are sharing the same pain as me out there. That's why I enjoy it. You guys should follow us on Instagram. It's Minority Opinions Pod.
And sign up to our Patreon page, because we need money.
Yes, sir. Like, the crisis, Gabriel's horn has been blowed, and the world is coming to a uncertain future.
And in return, you will get some exciting bonus content, like us talking about
Life?
life.
Yeah, life. The most exciting thing to hear about other people's lives. This is a very chill episode. Like, we're just leaning back, just like, like.
I'm just really tired.
And I hope all of you members enjoyed this episode of Minority Opinions Podcast.
So thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you, Hito. I tip my Adam Driver fedora to you.
And we will see you all next week
On Minority Opinions Podcast. Good night.